All right, let's just jump right into it, starting with the fundamentals. So what I always do is go to Reuters, or Reuters, I don't even know how to say in English, and I check the news. So in the morning, obviously, once again, there was loads of news about Trump and his tariffs. To be honest, at this point, it's just part of trading the markets, where it's nothing where you can be like, oh my God, there's a new tariff news. So it just happens pretty much every day, every week. But I was reading something about in the morning. Obviously, I'm in Germany, so it's a different time. But yeah, there was some news about tariff ruling from Trump and whatever. So obviously kind of shakes up the investors. And if we look at the economic calendar, obviously today was nothing. Then on Wednesday, when Trump will speak on this annual event for the president, he will most definitely talk about something economic. So Wednesday is also pretty important, as well to PPI. Next to that, we're still not done with earnings season. So on Wednesday, when Trump will be on this event, also after close, we have Nvidia, which is obviously probably the most important ticker. Then we also have Salesforce and Snow, which is also like a semiconductor, which are super important for NQ. And then for YM, because we trade both YM and NQ. For YM, we also have like Home Depot, which can be interesting, I guess. Maybe something like, I think Warner Brothers is somewhere in here as well. I'm not sure if this will have any effects. So we have the fundamentals of the news, the economic calendar, and then the earnings. And then let's jump into the charts. So let's start with YM. The levels I had mapped out for today was the previous week high as well as the previous week low, which maybe let me do it like this so you guys can see. So this was the previous week high, here was the previous week low. Then we also had the previous day high and then also the previous day low, also aligned with the previous week low, because we had a very choppy week. As you can see, loads of wick on the 1 hour time frame that traded into this level. Next to these, I also had obviously the weekly open that I always have on my chart. This fine dotted line is from TradingView itself. It's the previous day close, so from Friday. And then as we all saw, there was a new week opening gap, which is this gray box right here, obviously from all the tariff news and stuff that was happening. So these were the levels I had before going into the markets. And then obviously this is what already happened. So let's go into replay mode. So first candle opened, and then obviously on YM it was a huge push. We went through the weekly open, previous day close, new week opening gap, just everything pushed very strong right into this level. And from there I was already looking into taking my first trade, which happened right here. So I was looking for just some kind of continuation. Usually maybe this would have been like a pop and fade kind of thing, but I was just, US 30 or YM was just pushing so strong that I was like, maybe I can just, maybe I want to retest prior all-time highs, so I can just grab a quick 100 points. So I was just looking for some flag patterns, or which is like a nice pullback, and then entering on the new first high, which was right here. As you will see, this did not work. So next candle printed, I think I was entering right here and then just like got smacked. I used a 50-point stop loss for YM, so maybe pretty tight at the moment with the size of these candles, but I still thought it was valid. Obviously, this level held as we saw, and we just continued to sell off. We retested it a bit, but then ultimately broke down again. So from here on, I was not immediately looking for shorts, because at this point we were obviously still within all this was within the 5-minute opening range. So I was like, I don't want to take like a very aggressive short just because we broke a level here, like just because we broke out of this range. I was like, this is not valid. I want to wait for a bit more continuation. So what happened next was obviously price sold off. This was probably the trade of the day for me. So when this candle printed, this was the opening candle, right? So here price market opened, and we came to the opening price of the day itself, which was 512. So retested this, bounced, and then usually if you want to take a very aggressive sell, right, the easy trade would be something like, okay, at the low of this candle and at the high, which would have been 45 points, and then looking for a continuation downside move into the previous day low, which was also previous week low, which would have been 230 points. So with a 50-point stop loss, that would still have been like a 4-hour trade. But I did not enter this one, which was not ideal, because I was like, maybe this will just be a double bottom. because it was just Monday, you know, it was all these news. I wasn't sure if market would be moving this crazy, which it obviously did. So I was like, let's wait for some more confirmation. And then obviously market continued to go lower. At this point, it was just moving like crazy. I was like, damn, not gonna lie, a bit of FOMO kicked in, but I was pretty happy with myself. I was like, not giving into this. And then I was just waiting for a pullback. I was like, okay, let's see if we can maybe get like a 5-minute opening range retest or something. But price was just moving so aggressive. I was like, okay, so this was also obviously 5-minute opening range. Then somewhere here it was also like, this was obviously also the 50-minute opening range. I was like, we are already below both of them. I don't think as prices market is dumping like this, we'll like retest all these levels up here. So I was like, let's take a pretty aggressive trade. So when this candle printed, I was like, okay, if we get anything below this, let's just jump into a trade, which is what I did. We're just going to show in a minute in the live execution. And then I was just targeting like these lows down here. So obviously we still also had the 49,300 as a psychological level that in mind, which was already, I think, yeah, so these were already below overnight lows. I was like, gotta be a bit cautious. I'm not sure if markets will move this strong into like a very new low or like swiping all of this. So I was holding that trade pretty confident. And when we got into, let's say for me, this take profit area, so I was looking to take profit anywhere in here. I was trailing my stop loss pretty hard because I didn't want to just like have price bounces and come all the way back up. Yeah, so that was my position. Let me just show you this one in live, because I think this is something that's missing from a lot of trade videos, which is always super interesting for beginners. So as you can see, we had this, there you can see like my loss position. So this was the continued down move, and then obviously this candle printed pretty strong. I'm not going to show this because it's a very long trade, but here you can see just putting on the limit order because I was like, okay, I don't want to miss this move again, because I was like, okay, this was already a missed opportunity right here. And then, wait, how can I do this? Playback speed, let's put it to 2. All right, price just obviously continued to just be indecisive for a second, and then it tagged me in. As you can see, 50-point stop loss was pretty tight, but at this point I was like, if this comes back up, this is already an invalidated trade idea for me. I don't want to be in this anymore. And I was just looking for a strong continuation to the downside. And then what I wanted to show you guys here is, because this is like obviously not interesting. So price was moving pretty good into my direction. As you can see, we were just making new lows. That one doji green candle was not bothering me at all. At this point, I was also considering maybe to put my stop loss over here, but I wanted to give it the full wiggle room. And yeah, just price continued to go into my direction. And now this part is where it gets interesting. Let me pause for a second. So here you can see we're already at the 49 to 80, which also was already kind of getting into the zone of the previous week low. Obviously, it's not always guaranteed that price will just like continue rallying like crazy or like dumping like crazy. I was like, I don't want to bet that it goes to like the psychological number 200. So I was like, let's just trail this aggressively, which I then did, which you will see in a second. So I grabbed my stop loss and I just put it over the 1 minute candle high, and I was just like letting it run out a little bit. I was just watching it. At this point I already thought, okay, now because this candle didn't have like full bodies, I was like, maybe this will take me out. Obviously I was lucky enough it didn't happen. I had my price at the 250, which was also, I believe, the 2-to-1 ratio, which was ideal because it was also kind of in the lower range of the previous week low. So I was very happy with taking my trade off there. Got super lucky, didn't get stopped out. Price barely came to this, maybe like a couple of points where it was away, and then it just, I think it was a 4-hour, like the new 1-hour candle opened, and then price just smashed through the take profit, so which was a very nice trade. Then let's move to, and obviously can skip this. As you can see, let's just go to the chart. Price just went like crazy. So obviously, if I would have caught, this is the toxic mindset, guys, but the guy taking the first trade was already like pretty good. This one would have been even amazing, but it is what it is. I'm still happy that we had that one winning trade. And we can also show, let me show you here. Yeah, that's my Lucid account. So we ended the day, obviously still in drawdown. It is what it is, but we made $333 after commissions, which I'm very happy about. So 4 more winning days and hopefully some good profits, and we can take the first payout. And then let's move to NQ. So for NQ, pretty much the same thing. All of last week was pretty indecisive, I guess, after the crazy earning weeks. Was just slowing down a bit. Had very similar levels to YM, so with the previous week high, with the previous day low, and the previous week low. And next to that, we also had obviously the weekly open, new weekly opening gap, and then the previous day close. I'm sorry if I go through this a bit fast, but that's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you can see it, right? This was Thursday from not the last week, from the week before that. It was the last pretty crazy move we had, and afterwards, that in that week, everything was very indecisive. So I wasn't too eager on like price just dumping like crazy. I really thought it's going to respect these levels and these lows, which it did. So let's jump into the 5-minute time frame and let's just see. Yeah, so this was before market opened, and then the first 5-minute candle was very indecisive. Let's just switch immediately to the 1 minute, because there was not much happening for you guys that traded NQ as well. All right, so the first candle pushed and then it tapped immediately into the weekly open. It didn't go all the way through the new week opening gap or into like the high as YM did. And afterwards, it was pretty choppy, if I remember correctly. Obviously, it was still big candles. I mean, one candle was like 70 points. But overall, I felt like price was very indecisive. I didn't want to trade that. I was like, whoops. I was like, let's wait for a break of the 5-minute opening range. And then, yeah, I was like, still no trade. We didn't close. So this was the close of the 5-minute opening range. I was like, we didn't get a close. We're still inside this. This is super uninteresting at this point. And then we got that candle, which was insane. I was like, okay, market obviously found a direction. Let's trade this. I was looking, as always, for a continuation into the same direction. And then price dumped pretty hard. I think this is, where I had a first losing trade. So on NQ, unfortunately, I had two losing trades. I didn't lose the full 500, which is the max of what I can lose in a day. It was like 450 or something, so it wasn't ideal, but it is what it is. We just continued trading. So on this one, I was doing the same old thing. I was looking for entering below these candles here, and then I think to the upside of like 40 points, because I trade through 3 minis, which is $6 per point, and so I can risk around $40 to $42 for a max of $250 per trade. On this one, I did enter a bit low, which was not good, because that put me in a very bad position, because technically my stop loss, I think, wasn't even above this candle's high, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. Where you can jump into this really quick. Sorry for the flicking of the... Yeah, so let's just see for this one. NQ. It's hard to see. So this is where I took my first trade. Obviously, should have entered here. Wouldn't have mattered regardless, because this would have taken me out. Price then, because that's sometimes why you want to take, the more cautious trades, because let's see what happened afterwards. Okay, price came out, took me out. I was like, no biggie. Let's look for a second trade. And this is where things were more interesting, or should have been more interesting to me. And that is exactly here. Okay, so price came back up almost. I'm like, that's fine to me. Okay, this was the low of that candle. It wasn't perfectly the 5-minute opening range. You never get like touching candles, not always at least. So I was like, this is fine to me. This candle right here and this one were overlapping. So I was like, this is for me a valid retest. So what I should have done, and this is why execution is so important, should have entered here, put a limit order there, stop above this candle's high, which would have been just 27 points. Technically, this would have been eligible for trading 5 minis, but so fast sometimes with trading, you're not that fast. And then obviously, to be honest, I was pretty confident after seeing how YM was pushing. I was pretty confident NQ will go there as well. So I was like targeting somewhere down, should have targeted somewhere down here, but I missed that trade in a sense. You will also see it in the live trade. I think I did put a limit order here after price was already low. Then I took it off. I never got tagged in, which was very unfortunate. And then, am I remembering correctly? Let me see. Oh no, so I did enter on this candle, on this move. So excuse me guys. Let's see this. So I did enter on this continuation, but I didn't enter here where I should have. I entered somewhere down here, which, you know, maybe not the best, but it's also not the worst. It just increases the stop loss size. So obviously putting the stop loss over this candle's high, which has still been like 40 points, but then the problem was price was just consolidating. I wasn't really going anywhere. And then this is the candle that took me out because we already had this high. I was like, man, if we push above this, I don't want to be really in this trade. This is going to invalidate the trade for me. But to be honest, if I would have just not touched the trade, if I would just leave everything as a B, I would have had my 40-point stop loss, and price would have continued to the downside, as you probably all saw. NQ was a bit chopping a bit around, but ultimately it did move lower, which just goes to show sometimes you have to be patient, just have to let the trade run. And then obviously, as you can see, it traded into the previous day low, which would have been a pretty nice trade because entering from here, let's say I was like 23 something to this would also have been like a 200-point move, risking 40 points. Getting anything from like 4 to 5 hours insane. That's not something normal. Usually I go for the classic 2-hour trade, but it is what it is. And then also for live execution, I also think that's always very interesting to see from another trader because that's something you see rarely. Let's just jump into this. Yeah. So as you can see, there was the move up where we retested kind of like this opening range. I don't even know what that is. Where we kind of retested this opening range. This is where I should have been tagged in, but this is where execution comes in. Like, you cannot second guess, price moves so fast. You should jump in, use the limit order. You can see I was moving the mouse there. I was like calculating how many points is this, because on stupid TraderWeight you can do break trading when you trade more than one account. So as you can see, I put the limit there, but I wasn't tagged, and I immediately took it off, which was stupid. Would have probably got tagged in here, maybe. Yeah, that would have been tagged in. But it is what it is. We cannot change this. So I was entering here manually with a market order and then just put my stop above the previous candle high. And then, to be honest, nothing really happened. Price was chopping around, as you saw. Nothing really happened. And when we had this pop, I was kind of getting insecure. Not insecure. I was like, the trade idea is maybe invalidated. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Obviously, I already had the first loss here where price couldn't continue the momentum, and then price was just not going anywhere. I think also for like the new 1-hour candle that was giving me a very bullish momentum. Well, not me, well, the market had a very bullish momentum. I was like, okay. And that's why it's important, so important, like, don't touch the trades. If I wouldn't have touched this one, would have still been fine. I was like, do I want to exit? You can see that's in the nervousness. You start touching the trade, you're not really letting it do its thing, and then I get stopped out, and then price would have continued. So that was my trades for today. I hope you found this insightful and helpful. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and then see you tomorrow.